Hello and welcome to the Soulful Valley podcast. If you're a regular listener, thank you for listening and supporting this podcast. If you're new here and don't know me yet, I'm your host, Katie Carey, independent publisher of Books That Matter and an international best-selling author, and of course, the host of this globally ranked podcast. I help metaphysical coaches and healers gain confidence, clarity, raise their visibility and their credibility, giving them the opportunity to shine their light brighter so that the people they are here to serve can find them. I do this by creating opportunities for them to become best-selling authors in my multi-author and solo book projects. I also offer one-to-one mentorship services to help spiritual business owners find and unlock their limiting beliefs. In this podcast, I'll be sharing wisdom from myself, coaches, authors and energy healers that could be just what you need to transform your life today. You can connect with me via the Contact Katie button at my website at www.soulfulvalley.com.
You gotta love yourself with all your heart. If you don't already, it's time to start. 'Cause nothing's gonna work out until you do.
Hello! We have some exciting news for you about becoming the manifesting diva. In our current series, we're thrilled to host some of the amazing contributing authors from our book collaboration, Becoming the Manifesting Diva, Creating Ripples While You Flow, with 13 inspiring stories and a foreword by the renowned Dr. Joe Vitale. This book is set to launch worldwide on September the 17th. For a limited time, you can grab your copy for less than £1 on Amazon, helping us support our incredible authors on their journey to become international best-selling authors. All we ask in return is that you leave an Amazon review. We have some opportunities to collaborate with us too. Calling All Poets. We're in the process of creating our third Soulful Poems book in our Amazon #1 international best-selling book series. If you're a poet or you channel wisdom that could be poetry in disguise, we invite you to submit your work via our application form in the show notes. We have another opportunity, Evolving on Purpose, the book series. We are also excited to announce our third book in this series, titled Evolving on Purpose, Akashic Journeying to Wealth Consciousness. This is not just a book, it's a spiritual growth journey for both the authors and its readers. If you're an Akashic Records expert, this opportunity is tailor-made for you. And we also have some healing offers. Explore my range of meditations and guided healing sessions designed to help clear your money wounds and blocks. Plus, don't miss out on our Akashic co-creation activation to unlock your creativity. All these offerings are available on my Pensite page, along with our monthly free workshops. Again, you can find this information and the links in our show notes. If you would love a VIP service with a more personalised experience, connect with me through my website for a bespoke offer where I will support you holistically in overcoming challenges in your life and business. Remember, everything is interconnected. Links to applications and more details can be found in the show notes. Thank you for your support and let's create ripples together. And finally, if you've already read any of our books on Amazon or you're a listener on this podcast, please also leave us an Amazon review and follow and review this podcast to help us spread our important messages and help more people find solutions and help themselves. And now, let's get back to the episode you came here to listen to. Louise Samosorn is a dedicated wife and mother of 3, a devoted spiritualist and a personal growth and mindset coach. She is also an intuitive energy healer, speaker, and global self-love and wellness retreat facilitator. Women seek her mentorship and programs so they can rediscover their purpose and live a life of joy and fulfillment. Louise's spiritual journey, unbeknownst to her at the time, actually began at a young age. After a constant struggle with mental illness and trying to find her place in this world, the death of her brother just over a decade ago, sparked a journey of deep self-reflection, personal growth, and discovery. For the first time, she was able to understand her gifts and her soul's connection with the universe. She believes our souls are sent to this earth for a reason, and she has dedicated her life to fulfilling that mission through having a coaching business that inspires women to align with their purpose. Hello, and welcome to the Soulful Valley podcast, Louise.
Hello, Katie. Thank you for having me on your podcast again.
You're so welcome. It's wonderful to have you back. And you say again because the first episode going out of this series is the group episode of the Divas. So you did get a little clip, a very short clip of Louise introducing herself. But for our listeners, Louise, can you introduce yourself again?
I sure can. So my name is Louise Samosorn. I am a women's mindset and personal growth coach and mentor. And I'm all about just really helping women create a massive breakthrough in understanding who they are and what they want in life. And I tend to work with women that are coming through a change in their life, whether they're in a career that they're not happy with anymore, or they've just had spent a lot of time with their young family and they've kind of lost their identity. And so we go through and just reevaluate their needs and goals and wants and really start rebuilding their purpose again.
Let's touch on that a little bit, because that was me. I lost my identity when I was a mum, and I was an army wife for several years. Well, 17 years. That's more than several years, 17 years. So I completely lost my identity for a long period of time. So the work that you're doing feels really important to me, because we do, don't we? When we will get married and have children and end up revolving our lives around our husband's business or our husband's career, our children, and forget who we are and what else we're here for, apart from being a wife and a mother.
Well, that's right. And I think people forget that we are all here for a purpose as well. And so I do take people on that deeper spiritual journey if they wish. But yes, it is about just rediscovering your passions and your things that give you joy and fulfillment. And I find that's, especially with modern day women, there is a lot of pressure on us to be it all and do it all. And that does create a lot of stress and overwhelm, and we can lose ourselves in that path as well. So, and yes, and family is obviously really important, and we do put them first, but really it's so important to remember that we need to put ourselves first as well. And it all really does start with self-care and coming back to self.
And the theme tune for this podcast is You've Got to Love Yourself, because that's where I was when I started this podcast. Suddenly I'd come back to my creative self and was expressing myself through the podcast, eventually through books, through music, through all of the things that I love that I'd forgotten about. So I guess, Louise, the fact that you've come to this work is that you've also been on a similar journey. Do you want to share a little bit about your story, and maybe that's a part of your chapter in this book as well?
Yeah, look, my story is a little bit different. I mean, look, there was a part of me that I lost of myself when I started a young family as well. But for me, I actually spent a lot of my life not knowing who I was, because I'd never allowed myself to express myself fully. And it did create, I was heavily into alcohol and drugs and partying and all that kind of scene, and I really masked a lot of who I was by doing that, and I didn't realize that at the time. Then my brother actually passed away when I was 29, and I was living overseas at the time, and it really was just, and he was 38, and it really just changed my whole perspective. And it was almost like a spiritual kick up the butt in a way. to really go, you know what? I need to start working out who I am and what I want in life, because floating through life, just going here and there, is really with no meaning or purpose, isn't why we're being put here on earth. And yeah, so that really kicked me into gear to really start my personal development, and really start expressing myself. And I found music was a great way for me. My husband's very musical, and we'd actually just met at the time, and we ended up living in Melbourne and starting a band. And there was a lot of joy and fulfillment that I found through that. But then once we got married and had children, then yeah, again, I felt like I was losing myself again. So it was almost like re-establishing a new, but that was also a new version as well. Because when you become a mother, you become a new version of yourself. So it's not even really re-establishing yourself. It's more like establishing yourself on that new journey and that new path in life. So yes, I found myself, then family, then kind of lost myself again. And I also started two hospitality businesses as well. So I had very, very young family, two very thriving businesses. So my stress, overwhelm, everything was very, very overwhelming. And yeah, so it was, again, it was all about coming back to self. And I was actually at a mastermind. It was a really big event, and it was all about self-branding and all this stuff. And because I'd been so absorbed by my businesses at the time, I identified as my business, and this is like a hospitality business. And I remember the mentor who was running the mastermind, he came up to me and he's like, "Oh, so who are you?" And I'm like, "Oh, yada yada, I'm Lou, and my business is blah blah blah." And he's like, "No, who are you?" And I actually couldn't answer him. And I went, "I don't know who I am outside of my business, outside of my babies, outside of home life." So that was about 3.5 years ago. And that's when I really started to get quite heavy into the personal development and mindset, and really my spiritual journey started about that time as well.
Beautiful share. Thank you. And I've noticed that as well in sometimes with some of the chapters that come in, or the biographies, and I've had to push for a bit more. For there's nothing here about your personal, where you even live. It's all about the business, and the way we connect in these chapters is sharing a piece of ourselves, isn't it? Because people can relate to that as well as the business, because it doesn't matter. There are so many coaches and mentors and healers out there, but really what people want is somebody that they can connect with and relate to as a human, not just the label of what you do and what the business is. Louise, can you share a little bit more about your chapter in Becoming the Manifesting Diva?
Yeah, sure can. And honestly, it was such a honor to be invited from yourself, Katie. It was a big surprise. It was one of those things that I may have secretly been manifesting myself, but I just didn't know when the time was right, and the opportunity popped up, and I was like, "Yep, this is for me. I'm going to be a part of this." And it was so easy for me to write it. I literally sat down and boom, boom, boom. It all just came out in one go, because it was obviously a part of me, and it was also therapeutic in a way. It was obviously a part of me, and parts of those stories that I've never shared with anybody. So it was something that I needed to get out onto paper. So that was such a great part of the process. And really, there's little stories in there about how I have accidentally manifested things, and how really, if you can see it in your mind, then you can achieve it, and that's really what it's about. And there's a part in the chapter, I'm not going to say too much about it, but where I created a vision board, and I put some really out there things on there, like really out there, thinking, oh, when I'm a millionaire type kind of things, you know what I mean? And they ended up happening but in a way I didn't expect them to happen. And I think that's really the power of manifestation, really, isn't it? And just surrendering and trusting the process, and the universe will listen to you.
And one of the things that you offer now, there's a connection between that and your vision board, wasn't there? The retreat that you're offering.
Yeah, well, that's it. That was the connection. It all came out as a retreat that I went on a healing retreat in February, and it was such an amazing experience. And I came back very connected to spirit and very connected to the universe, and I was getting many downloads, and then I just had this vision of this retreat, and I'm like, I need to follow this. I need to follow this vision. Again, just trusting in the process, and just in my heart, I just knew it was something. It was not on my radar at all to create a women's retreat in Phuket. The reason why it is in Phuket, just for the record, is my husband's Thai. So I do spend a lot of time in Thailand. So, and I love Thailand, and I thought, you know what, I love Phuket, so let's do it there. And then I get a holiday as well. But yeah, so the correlation is that a lot of the things that I put on the vision board actually ended up coming alive through the retreat. And it was quite a powerful realization when I started noticing that there was a lot of images that actually, even the villa itself is almost identical to the villa that I cut out of a magazine and put on this canvas. So yeah, it was, again, I get goosebumps every time I talk about it, because at the time I was just in disbelief. I just kept on looking at the computer, and I'm looking at and I'm like, and then the more I looked at it, there was like a girl doing yoga, and there actually is a part on it that has Club Med Phuket on there with a sign. Like, it's just wild. And yeah, there's a vision right in the center that's a window, a square window that looks out onto tropical palms. And that's one of the images that's on the website of the villa, is this bathtub that looks through this square window onto tropical palms. And I was like, yeah, it was quite an experience. And I'm like, oh, well, that's really great and fantastic that it ended up that way. But then it also made me think how powerful our mind is also in a negative way. So, how important it is for us to keep positive and think positive, and yeah, put positive energies out into the universe, because it can eventually come true.
And I'm smiling so much because I've had so many experiences with vision boards that I did in the past, and I wanted to be a writer for years. And in January 2021, I pinned best-selling author in an image onto the middle of my vision board.
Wow.
And then Bridget popped in. I didn't know Bridget. She was a total stranger. And she popped in, and I was in her author's hub by the 13th of January. So it literally took days. And I'd made it. It was something I'd wanted for years that I kept putting off, and it wasn't the way I imagined it.
Wow. Well, it never is it? And
No.
and that's the thing, like, people say, I have heard people say, vision boards are a bit of a waste of time because they're only what you can imagine. But I'm like, no, I put some pretty out there things on there, and it came to fruition. Yeah, it didn't come the way that I thought it was going to come. But then again, I didn't really have any I actually, almost, some of the images were almost like a joke, like, when I'm, sailing on my yacht, and go figure, we're doing a yacht trip around the islands in Phuket. Like, it's just crazy how it can come about sometimes. But yeah, that's really magical stuff. I love when it happens. And I'm just really, really happy. I've got, a really beautiful bunch of women coming that are flying from America, Australia, and yeah, it's just going to be a really magical time. And I'm so excited to everyone to meet each other, because only I haven't really met everyone yet. So I'm really excited to meet everybody. And then I know from experience myself the magic that unfolds at a retreat. And it is really all about letting go and allowing yourself to immerse yourself in the whole experience. And it does take the ladies often, a day to do that. But once that happens and those barriers come down, then yeah, it's just a really, really beautiful experience.
And particularly from our conversation a bit earlier about going back to the self and time for you, that's more magical than anyone is going to experience on a family holiday.
Well, that's it. It's a self-love and wellness retreat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the theme of that is the theme of the retreat. And it is all about coming back to self, and stepping out, because we wear so many hats, we're mum, we're, wife, or, partner, and, we're the business owner and all that stuff. And it's just so nice to be able to have a space just to have a week to yourself. And it's not just a holiday, it really is going to be a transformational journey. And again, it's up to the women how deep they want to go on that journey. There is going to be some energy cleansing, there's going to be a heart chakra opening workshop, there's going to be other workshops as well, and just daily movement, and just being in a beautiful villa overlooking the Andaman Sea in Phuket. Like it's all catered for. There's a beautiful woman who is the caretaker, her and her husband, and she's actually the chef as well, and she cooks all the food. And yeah, you really don't need to do anything. I do all the organizing, and you just turn up and get out of it what you want to get out of it.
And so anyone who has been maybe a bit blocked with bringing through their own magic for their business as well, this is a great space where you'll probably find your creative flow come right back in.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, it really can be whatever you want to make of it. And it isn't just for business owners. It is, a lot of high achieving women that are coming, but it really is for everyone. Anyone who needs that space to come back to self and really give themselves that self-love that they are craving for. And yeah, and just come back a renewed, rejuvenated, relaxed woman, basically.
Sounds beautiful. Louise, is there anything else you'd like to share before you leave us?
No, I've had such an amazing time again. It's always a pleasure to be on your podcast. And yeah, thank you for having me.
And where can our listeners find you?
I am predominantly on Facebook. So you can find me under Louise Samosorn. And I do have Instagram, but yeah, predominantly you can find me on Facebook. And I've also got a website for my self-love and wellness retreat in Phuket.
And we'll pop all the links into the show notes. Thanks again for today. It's been great having you.
Thank you.
Bye for now.
Bye.
So ask yourself, is this for me? Give yourself some boundaries. Learn to trust your intuition now.
Thanks for listening to the Soulful Valley podcast. I trust that you will have heard something today that you were ready to hear, and that it's made you feel a little lighter, more aligned and connected with your soul's purpose, and you have been reminded of who you really are and the true nature of the power that you hold within you. My aim for this podcast is to bring love, light, wisdom, raise consciousness and ease suffering. If you've enjoyed the show, go back and listen to some of the back catalogue of previous episodes. Subscribe, follow, rate and review so that you're notified when new episodes drop in, and share this podcast with anyone that you think it may help to listen to. You can connect with me at soulfulvalley.com, and if you scroll to the bottom of the website, there are links to my social media platforms.